Alright guys, Hayzink here, welcome back to the channel for another Street Fighter Duel video. And in case you think that this is like a hoodie I wear out and about, it's not. My lovely wife picked me up one of these cool pyjama hoodie type things, so I'm in my pyjamas and I'm recording a video. So shout out to the wife, thank you. Anyway, in this one I want to address a couple of common comments that I've seen popping up lately, and to be honest I think it's things that are pretty wide of the mark when it comes to talking about the game. First of all, units, right? The second topic's the more important one, right? But units, right? I've suddenly seen this trend of people saying, oh, there's only 2 units left, we've only got Seth and we've only got Balrog left. I don't know where people are coming at with that, right? Now, yes, we only have Balrog and Seth left to come in the game as first time characters. Although technically Seth is already in the game, he's just an android or robot version of Seth. I mean, obviously if you look at the gallery, you can see that technically speaking, we already have Seth. This is Seth. So when OG Seth is added to the game, technically it's not the first time he's added because we have him here. So if you want to get uber specific, the only character that's never been added to the game yet in any way, shape or form is Balrog. But, guys, there's loads and loads of other units to come in the game. We've still got Yakuza Guy, Yakuza Ken, we've got Vega and Kami, the duo character, we've got Rigo Honda, we've got Crimson Viper. Now, yes, those are all what you would call variants, right? But this was always known. I don't know why suddenly there's this, oh my god, we've only got 2 characters left. Pretty much since the day this game launched, it was discussed that this game was based on Street Fighter 4, and the original cast of Street Fighter 4, once they had all appeared within the game, all we were going to have after that point was going to be variants of those characters or collaboration characters, okay? Now, collaborations could extend to things like Darkstalkers, Mega Man, God, Resident Evil, out with Capcom, other things, Turtles, all that type of stuff, right? We don't know. But to say that there's only 2 characters left to come in the game is spreading misinformation to the point where some people literally think this game has got 2 units left to come and then that's it, there's no more units. That's not the case, okay? Yes, we've never had Balrog. But do you know what? There's 2 Balrogs. Once we get Balrog, we're going to get another Balrog. There's another Sagat. There is another Bison. There is a lot of units still to come. I'm sure I counted it and there's something like 30 still unused that we will be getting within the game at some point. So if you are someone that is worried about us running out of characters, all I can say is the information that's been spoken about has been picked up within the wrong way. It's not that we are running out of characters. It's just that once the original cast is used, we're going to have variations of those characters. Now, this is nothing new. If you guys have played any other gachas or a lot of other gachas that are based on IPs, I can give you a few examples. 7 Deadly Sins. There's about 5 Melee Odysseys, if not more. There's like 6 bands. You know, if you play Dokkan Battle, there's like 127 million Gokus, right? But they all do different things. They're not the same. They're the same character, but they're not the same unit, okay? This is not new. And I'm surprised that people have kind of taken that ball and ran with it, because it's sort of leading to a bit of a spread of misinformation where people think we are running out of units within the game. We're not. The game is still active in China, so there's still going to be more units developed. When the mothership, as I like to call it, the home version, when that shuts down, then you truly do know what you have left, because they'll stop developing characters and you're only going to get what is within the game, right? we're not there, right? So I feel like this worry about us running out of characters is a bit misplaced, right? Now, the other thing that I've seen discussed quite a lot, and it's kind of ironic actually, is the fact that we've not had any new events for, I think it's 2 weeks now. Now, the thing that I think's a bit ironic, and the reason I used the term ironic, is because, funnily enough, for the longest time people were complaining that we were getting too many banners back to back, right? We would go from an event into a unit, following week we would get another unit, then we'd go back into an event. So realistically, the way the rotation was working was 2 weeks after the end of an event, we would go into another event, and people were complaining that it was too fast, it was too much, too soon, if you wanted to actually summon the units, okay? Now, this is the first time that we've actually had what I'm going to call a little bit of a lull, where we don't yet know what the next event is going to be, okay? Now, I still think it's going to be what I've said it's going to be, but obviously until we see it in game, people just think that I'm dreaming. I might be dreaming, who knows, right? But I still think that's going to happen. But the thing is, there's reasons for it, right? There's actually multiple reasons. The first main reason is Top Joy, the translated version or whatever. It's quite a small team. They were off for Golden Week, and Golden Week in China is a different time period from Golden Week in Japan. Golden Week was just last week. They basically shut down for a week, okay? There was nothing, so essentially that week was written off, okay? There was no content lined up, right? It wasn't as if they had decided, okay, we're going to be off this week, we'll still do everything as normal, blah, blah, blah. No, they didn't do that, right? They just took the week off. So essentially, what we would have got, I'd say this week, will most likely be bumped to the following week. So I wouldn't be shocked if we get a countdown next week, or we just get an event coming the last week of October, right? I really do not think that it's such a big surprise. Now, the thing I'm also seeing, which kind of ties into this other comment, is a lot of people saying the game's boring, all you do now is you log on, you do your dailies, and that's it. Guys, I hate to say this, that's what these games are, right? Now, there's only one gacha game that I've ever played truly that gave me the sense that I could just play all day long, right? And it was Disgaea RPG. I still stand by, I think Disgaea RPG was probably the best gacha that I've ever played. And the reason that I say that is because the biggest hook within Disgaea RPG is the thing that made you stronger was gear, right? That was it. But no one could buy gear. You could only get gear through gameplay, right? There was no way to buy gear. And then once you got the gear, you would have to grind for materials to try to get certain status effects within that gear. And even then, you could not buy that. There was no way to buy that. It could only be got through gameplay. So you had this sort of a replayability loop where you could grind in a place called the item world. You could do it endlessly. There was no stamina, and you felt like you could play all the time. But that had its drawbacks, because anyone who played Disgaea RPG and wanted to get strong, guess what they did? They ran a macro. They just left the game playing on Steam, because there was a Steam version. You ran a macro and you just let the game grind for you, right? So while you could play it non-stop, you didn't actually actively play it non-stop. You let it play itself using a macro, right? Now, this game doesn't have anything like that. This game relies on its stream of content for you to have something other than your dailies to do. But this is not new, right? If you go and play games like Dokkan Battle, etc., they're exactly the same. If you do not have new content to do, there's nothing to do in-game unless you create your own challenges, right? Dokkan Battle, perfect example. You go in, you decide, okay, I'm going to try and do a no item run, I'm going to try and beat this stage with this team setup. You're not allowed to use any Goku characters, right? What people do within that community is they make their own content by having challenges, okay? Now that exists in this game, You have people out there who are on the Discord and stuff like that who try to beat bosses with certain builds, certain characters, certain units, and they basically create their own content, right? But for the average player, you're going to log in, you're going to do your dailies, you're going to do what's available, and you're going to log out. That's what gacha games are. If you're looking for something that is a little bit more hands-on, a little bit more constantly playable, what you're actually looking for is a console game. You're looking for a PC game. Because ultimately, gacha games are quite thin on content. That's how they are. When you first load them up, there's loads of content. But once you smash that content out, you are then reliant on the monthly cycle of new content releasing. If you honestly, genuinely think that, oh, this game has got loads of content, right, go and play it. Once you hit endgame, you'll find that you are then waiting. You're waiting for the update, you're waiting for the next thing to come along. It's the same as games even like Genshin Impact. You play Genshin Impact, once you have smashed all the available content and you hit endgame, you are then waiting on that update cycle. You log in, you do your dailies, you log out. Your dailies might take you longer because of the type of game it is, but it's still exactly the same loop. You are relying on new content being added into the game each month, or you've just got that cycle of logging in, doing your dailies, logging out again. The only time you don't have that with these type of games, these gacha games, is when you're a new player. Because when you're a new player, you've got everything in front of you. But when you hit endgame, you're going to hit the same thing. You're going to hit the point where you're waiting for updates to come along. And if you are someone who is constantly hopping from game to game to game to game, you don't know that because you never stick around long enough to find out. Now, ultimately, I am not the gatekeeper that says you should stay and play a game or you should quit a game or anything like that. Do what you want to do. I don't really care. It's entirely up to you as a player. But I just think that sometimes some of the things I see levied against this game are a little bit unfair, right? Now, I've been the first and probably the most vocal when it comes to calling out the things that this game has done badly, like rigged rolls that we had back in the day, things like bugged things that they're selling, false advertising. I've called all of that out, but what I don't call it out for is stuff that exists in every single one of these mobile games, and that is a content cycle. It happens. We need to wait for updates. When we get updates, we do new content, we smash it. There's going to be busy weeks, there's going to be quiet weeks. It's just how these games are. And if you don't like that, I don't know what to tell you. The only thing I can say is maybe having more than one of these games to play is something that's better for a player who has the needs that you have, because ultimately, no matter what game it is, you will get to the point where you are just literally logging on, doing your dailies, logging off, waiting for that next event, that next update, that next challenge that you can push and try and get on the scoreboard. All of the games are the same. They ultimately are all the same. And really, I think it's a bit unfair, some of the things that I'm seeing said about Street Fighter Duel now. I don't know really where it's came from all of a sudden, because to me, there's not really much different about the game now than there was 2-3 months ago. Other than some slight improvements with like getting characters and events and stuff like that. But if you were enjoying the game 2-3 months ago, unless you're burnt out, then I don't really get what they've done differently that makes you not enjoy the cycle that we have now. Other than you potentially were not at endgame, and you've now hit a point for you anyway that you would consider endgame, where you're not making any progress and you're just like, nah, don't like it, don't want to play it anymore, which is fine, but just realise, if you move on to another game, especially if it's an idle game, what you experience here, you're going to experience there. Just ask people who have hit endgame in the Tower of God and stuff like that. You ultimately face the same hurdles that you're facing here. You'll be capped by power, you won't get enough currency to get the dupes that you need. It grinds to a halt. That's just how these idle games work. And if you're someone who has patience, eventually you'll get over that hurdle. If you're someone that doesn't have patience, you're going to get bored. Or you're going to spend money, one or the other. But ultimately, the grass isn't really greener. This is just how these games are. And what I would say is, if you can't vibe with that, they're probably not the type of game for you. But that's it. I just think it's a bit irrational and unfair. The things that are being said about characters coming has been blown out of proportion, and the thing about dailies and stuff, you know, it is what it is, guys. If you don't like it, honestly, don't play. That's the long and short of it. I'm still having fun. I still enjoy doing what I do. I do more than just my dailies. I do those little things that I mentioned, like I try to beat X, I try to beat Y, I try new teams, I try to see what works and what doesn't work, and that keeps me engaged. And if that's not enough, then again, maybe it's not the right type of game for you. But anyway, I think soon enough we'll hear about new events and stuff. Who knows if it'll be next week or the week after. When it comes to Halloween, it's another thing I've seen mentioned. I don't think we'll have a dedicated Halloween event. If they'd kept Witch Jury, I would have said we will have, but I don't think we will. I think at most what we'll get is a 7-day login for Halloween, and we'll probably get a character at the end of it. If they're trying to stick with a Halloween theme, they'll probably theme it around Mummy Dowson. I hope they don't. It'd be nice if they gave out Witch Jury, but it seems doubtful. So I wouldn't be shocked if it's someone like Mummy Dowson and they give us like a box that's got a copy of him in it or something like that. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. You can let me know if you agree or you disagree in the comments down below. I just think that sometimes this game gets a little bit too much unfair hate. If something bad's happening, trust me, I'll be the first one to call it out. But anyway, peace.